Right now I am walking across a quiet green park in southern Illinois, and almost nothing here looks extraordinary at first glance. But under this grass lies the greatest city ever built north of Mexico before Columbus. 900 years ago this field held tens of thousands of people, plazas the size of stadiums, and earthen pyramids raised entirely by hand. At its peak, more people may have lived here than in London of the same era. And then, in one of the great mysteries of American archaeology, every one of them walked away. This is Cahokia. We are in Collinsville, Illinois, just 8 miles east of downtown St. Louis and the Mississippi River. This is Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site, about 2,200 acres of protected ground on a broad river floodplain called the American Bottom. The ancient city itself was far larger, sprawling across roughly 6 square miles at its height. Today the site preserves around 70 of the estimated 120 mounds the Mississippian people built here. It is a state historic site, a National Historic Landmark, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is a warm Sunday morning in late July, and the grounds are wide open under a big Midwestern sky. The mounds rise out of the grass ahead of me, soft green shapes that could almost pass for natural hills. They are not hills. Every one of them was planned, engineered, and raised by people carrying earth one basket at a time. Walking here feels less like a hike and more like crossing the floor of a vanished metropolis. To understand why a city rose here, look at the land itself. The American Bottom is a wide, flat floodplain carved and filled by the Mississippi River over thousands of years. Regular floods left behind deep, rich soil, threaded with creeks, marshes, and oxbow lakes full of fish and waterfowl. Forested bluffs to the east offered timber, game, and high ground. For farmers working the land with hand tools, this was some of the most generous ground on the continent. The path I am following now would have run through the heart of a dense, noisy living city. Picture thatched houses packed in neighborhoods, cooking fires, gardens, storage pits, and courtyards stretching in every direction. Archaeologists believe the city was laid out deliberately, aligned to the cardinal directions and to events in the sky. There was nothing accidental about Cahokia. It was designed. The engine behind all of it was corn. Maize agriculture took hold in this region around 900 AD, joining older native crops like goosefoot and sumpweed that people here had farmed for generations. Corn thrived in the warm, wet centuries of the medieval climate, and the surplus it produced could feed thousands of people who were not farmers. Surplus meant priests, builders, potters, and chiefs. Grain built this city just as surely as it built the cities of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Around 1050 AD, Cahokia exploded. In the space of about 50 years, the population is thought to have jumped from under 3,000 people to well over 10,000, and estimates for the city at its peak run from 15,000 to 20,000 or more. Some scholars call this rapid transformation the Big Bang of Mississippian culture. New neighborhoods, new plazas, and new mounds appeared with astonishing speed. For the next 2 centuries, this was the largest and most influential settlement north of Mexico. This enormous open lawn I am crossing is the Grand Plaza, and it is one of the most remarkable spaces on the site. It covers about 50 acres, roughly 1,600 feet long and more than 900 feet wide. The ground here was naturally uneven, a landscape of ridges and swales, so the builders leveled the entire thing by hand. Imagine flattening 50 acres with baskets and digging sticks. This was the civic heart of the city, built for ceremonies, feasts, markets, and games. The great game of the plaza was called Chunky. A player rolled a polished stone disc across the ground, and competitors hurled spears, not at each other, but at the spot where they judged the stone would come to rest. Closest spear wins. Crowds gathered to watch, and the game carried real stakes, with heavy wagering and fierce rivalries. Chunky spread from this region across much of eastern North America, one more sign of Cahokia's enormous cultural reach. And now the centerpiece comes into view, and photographs honestly do not prepare you for it. This is Monk's Mound, the largest prehistoric earthen structure in the Americas north of Mexico. It rises in 4 great terraces, a flat-topped pyramid of packed earth standing about 100 feet tall. Its base covers nearly 14 acres, which is larger than the footprint of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Everything about the city radiated outward from this point. The statistics of Monk's Mound are hard to absorb. It measures about 950 feet long by more than 800 feet wide at the base, and contains roughly 814,000 cubic yards of earth. There were no wheels here, no draft animals, no metal tools. Every basket load, perhaps 50 or 60 pounds of soil at a time, came up on someone's back. Construction unfolded in stages over decades, layer upon layer. An act of collective will sustained across generations. Time to climb. A long modern stairway runs up the south face of the mound, following the route where an ancient ramp or stairway once stood. It is a real workout in July heat, and I am gaining about 10 stories of elevation on foot. As you rise, the flat green immensity of the American bottom opens up behind you. Every step makes the scale of this thing more physical, more believable, and more absurd in the best possible way. Here is the fact that stays with me. Across the whole city, the Mississippians moved an estimated 55 million cubic feet of earth to raise their mounds, all of it dug with stone and wooden tools and carried in woven baskets. Archaeologists digging into the mounds can actually see the individual basket loads, small lenses of different colored soils stacked in their millions. Dark clays, light sands, layer after layer, each one the record of a single human trip. A city built one basket at a time. And here is the reward. From the summit of Monk's Mound, the whole floodplain spreads out beneath you, and on a clear day you can see the skyline of St. Louis and the silver curve of the Gateway Arch on the horizon. 900 years ago the view was a living city, plazas and rooftops and cooking smoke stretching for miles. The ruler who stood here saw everything, and everyone below could see this summit. That was exactly the point. The summit was not empty. Excavations found evidence of an enormous building up here, roughly 105 feet long and 48 feet wide, possibly rising 50 feet high. It was likely the residence or temple of the city's paramount leader, a great thatched hall floating above the metropolis. From the plaza below, that building against the sky would have been the tallest thing anyone had ever seen. Power, religion, and architecture fused into a single statement of earth and timber. Let us put this city in world context. In the 11 and 1200s, while Cahokia flourished, London and Paris were medieval towns hemmed in behind their walls. Scholars believe Cahokia's population in the 12th century may have exceeded both of them. No city within the borders of the United States would grow larger than ancient Cahokia until around 1800, when Philadelphia finally passed it. Think about that. The biggest American city for 7 centuries was built of earth and thatch, and most Americans have never heard its name. Coming down the Great Stairway, the Grand Plaza lays itself out below like a map. From up here you can read the city plan, the flat ceremonial ground, the smaller platform mounds at its edges, the twin mounds standing paired at the far end. Mounds came in different shapes for different jobs. Flat-topped platforms carried important buildings, while conical and ridge-topped mounds often marked burials and boundaries. It is urban planning, executed in earth. West of Monk's Mound stood one of the most fascinating structures in ancient America, a series of huge timber circles archaeologists call Woodhenge. Built and rebuilt 5 times between about 900 and 1100 AD, the best-known version held 48 tall posts of red cedar arranged in a perfect circle, with one post at the center. At the equinoxes, an observer at that center post watched the sun rise directly over Monk's Mound, as if the mound itself gave birth to the sun. This was a calendar, an observatory, and a sacred instrument all at once. It was discovered in the 1960s by archaeologist Warren Witry during salvage excavations ahead of a highway. Out here under this huge sky, the astronomy makes perfect sense. A farming city lives and dies by the calendar, by knowing when to plant, when to harvest, and when to hold the great ceremonies. The posts of Woodhenge tracked the solstices and equinoxes with real precision. The knowledge in this landscape was not written in books. It was built into the ground and raised into the sky. All that mound earth had to come from somewhere, and the city still shows the scars. Scattered across the site are broad depressions called borrow pits, the quarries where workers dug the soil that became the mounds. Some were later refilled with trash and earth, while others held water and became ponds within the city. One of the largest sits just south of the Grand Plaza and is still plainly visible today. The mounds are the positive image of the city, and the borrow pits are the negative, two halves of one colossal earth-moving project. Away from the monuments, most of Cahokia was simply home. Families lived in rectangular houses with walls of upright posts and thatched roofs, their floors set slightly into the earth. They farmed plots of corn and squash, fished the oxbow lakes, hunted deer in the uplands, and gathered in courtyards shared by a few households. Craftspeople worked shell, stone, clay, and copper into goods that traveled remarkable distances. It was, in every ordinary human sense, a city. On the eastern side of the site, at a spot called Mound 34, archaeologists uncovered something found nowhere else in the Mississippian world: a copper workshop. Craftsmen here heated raw copper, much of it traded down from the Lake Superior country, then hammered it thin and heated it again, a cycle called annealing. Excavators even found the stumps of 3 trees that once held the anvil stones. From this workshop came sacred objects, long-nosed god ornaments and ceremonial earpieces that carried Cahokia's religion far across the continent. Cahokia sat at one of the great crossroads of North America, just below the meeting of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers. Dugout canoes linked the city to a trade network that reached the Gulf of Mexico for marine shell, the Great Lakes for copper, and the distant plains and mountains for exotic stone. Finished goods and ideas flowed back out, and towns across the southeast began imitating Cahokian styles. Its pottery, its games, and its symbols appear hundreds of miles from this spot. One image above all others belongs to this place: the Birdman, a dancing human figure with the wings and beak of a falcon. A small sandstone tablet carved with the Birdman was found right here, dug from the east side of Monk's Mound, and it has become the emblem of the whole site. The falcon was tied to the sky, to warriors, and to the game of chunky. Walking these paths, you are walking through the imagery that later flowed into art across the ancient Southeast. Around 1175, something changed, and the city walled itself in. The Cahokians built a stockade nearly 2 miles long around Monk's Mound and the Grand Plaza, a wall of some 20,000 upright logs studded with guard bastions at regular intervals. It was rebuilt at least 3 more times, consuming entire forests of timber. A wall like that is not decoration. Whether the threat came from outside enemies or from divisions within, the age of confidence was ending. The 13th century brought harder times. Climate researchers have found evidence of repeated severe droughts between about 1100 and 1250, followed by eras of major Mississippi flooding. A dense city of corn farmers had little cushion against failed harvests. Timber had been cut for houses, fires, and 4 generations of stockade walls. Add crowding, disease, and the political strain of feeding thousands, and the foundations of the city began to crack. And And so, family by family, the people left. By the mid-1200s, Cahokia's population had fallen by half or more, and by 1350 the city was essentially empty. There is no evidence of a single catastrophe, no conquest, no massacre, just a long human decision, repeated thousands of times, that life was better elsewhere. The descendants of the Mississippian world continued in the great tribal nations of the Midwest and Southeast. But the city itself went silent, and the prairie slowly closed over it. For centuries after the fall, this place stood almost deserted, visited by hunting parties but never resettled in any substantial way. Grass and forest reclaimed the plazas. The great mounds softened under rain and root into the green shapes around me now. When French explorers and missionaries reached this stretch of the Mississippi in the 1600s, they found the mounds already ancient and unexplained. The city had slipped out of living memory. The names we use today are borrowed, twice over. Cahokia comes from the Cahokia tribe of the Illinois people, who lived in this region when the French arrived, centuries after the city fell, and whose own name for the ruins is unknown. Monk's Mound honors a small band of French Trappist monks who settled beside the Great Mound in the early 1800s, gardening on its terraces for a few hard years before moving on. The monks are long gone, but the name stuck. The true name of this city, and of the people who built it, is lost. Took a long fight to save what remains. In the modern era, mounds were plowed down for farmland and carted away for fill, and a subdivision and a drive-in theater once stood inside the ancient city. Illinois began protecting the core of the site as a state park in 1925, and decades of advocacy by archaeologists slowly expanded it. In 1964, the site became a National Historic Landmark. What I am walking through today exists because people refuse to let it vanish. In 1982, UNESCO named Cahokia Mounds a World Heritage Site, placing it alongside the pyramids of Giza, the Great Wall, and the Taj Mahal. It remains one of only about 24 sites in the United States to hold that distinction, and the only one in Illinois. The designation recognizes what this ground truly is, the greatest expression of pre-Columbian urban civilization north of Mexico. Not a mystery to be exoticized, but a genuine city, built by brilliant people on American soil. Walking back with Monk's Mound rising behind me, the quiet out here feels different than it did this morning. This is not empty parkland. It is the floor of a great city that flourished, faltered, and faded, and it still has things to teach about how cities rise and why they fall. If you ever find yourself near St. Louis, cross the river and give Cahokia an afternoon. Climb the stairs, stand on the summit, and look out over the American bottom. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.